We are looking at a microscope slide or a photo of a microscope slide of compact bone. Compact bone is sometimes also known as lamellar bone. Those are one and the same. Compact bone is the most common tissue in the body. About 80% of your skeleton is compact bone, and it mainly is found within the diaphysis of long bones and on the outside layers of short bones, irregular bones, flat bones, and sesamoid bones. The other 20% of your skeleton is made of spongy bone, which looks very different from this. We're looking at compact bone again, and you can see it kind of has this uniform tree ring type structure. That's the best way I know how to describe it. This tree ring structure, these concentric rings that you see, these are known as osteons. So we're going to identify one of these units. Now you're looking at many osteons in this photo. So I'm just going to pick out one osteon. I'm going to circle this guy right here. This would be one osteon, which is a unit of compact bone. That's how we would describe that. Now, the anatomy of an osteon, there's a couple of parts that you need to be able to recognize of an osteon. First thing is you can see that clear open space in the middle. That clear open space in the middle is known as the central canal. This is a large opening mainly for blood vessels. Nerve endings can travel through this. So I'm going to draw a line out from that, and we're going to label that open circle in the middle as the central canal. Sometimes it's also known as the Haversian system. Okay, now if you remember, if you've already watched a couple of lectures or a couple of videos related to bone tissue, when bone is forming, the bone cells begin as osteogenic cells. These are stem cells for bone tissue. Those osteogenic cells will differentiate into osteoblasts. Now, the osteoblasts position themselves in a circle around that central canal because remember, the central canal is bringing in blood vessels. So, this is where the nutrients is coming from. We're going to get oxygen, vitamins, minerals, all coming from those blood vessels running through the central canal. So, the osteoblasts position themselves in a ring around that central canal because it's the closest to the blood supply. So that's actually how we're going to end up with this tree ring like structure of an osteon. Okay, so if you can kind of see the little black dots that are around the osteon there, I'm going to draw a line to this one right here. Here's a little group right there. There's also another little group down here. These are osteocytes. Now, osteocytes are mature bone cells. They were osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are your bone builders. So, when the osteogenic cells differentiate and the osteoblasts move in a circular formation around that central canal, they're going to start building the matrix. And in doing so, they're producing collagen fibers. So they're pumping out lots and lots of collagen fibers and forming the matrix around themselves. That matrix is what we call lamellae. And since it's forming a ring around that central canal, we call it concentric lamellae. Now, eventually, those osteoblasts are going to become completely trapped within the lamella. And when they become trapped, that's when we call them an osteocyte. So you're looking at mature bone tissue. So we're labeling those cells as osteocytes because they've already been trapped within that matrix. We can also go ahead and label the lamellae, and we'll label the concentric lamellae, which simply is the space between the cells. It's all of this kind of tan like area that you're looking at around that central canal. This is known as the concentric lamellae. Okay? Now, as those osteoblasts are building the matrix and they're working toward becoming trapped and becoming an osteocyte, they reside within these little clear pockets, these little spaces. Those clear pockets where they live is known as lacuna. And you can see in this picture that there's some empty lacuna there because when this slide was made, some of these bone cells died. And so the lacuna are actually empty. They're clear on the inside. So I'm going to point out one or two of these. Over here on this side, you can see this little clear, it almost looks like a little bubble area. If you remember learning about the anatomy of cartilage, cartilage forms, the cartilage cells, the chondrocytes, they reside in lacuna as well. So that little clear space, that little bubble that we see, that's called lacuna, and an osteocyte would reside in that lacuna. Now we're able to see it in this picture because it's empty at the moment. Notice where we drew lines to the little black dots of the osteocytes. This area here, we can't really see the lacuna there. That's because the cell is filling up the space. But over here, we are able to see that lacuna because it's empty. Okay, we're able to see that clear pocket there. And one other structure we're going to label here is interstitial lamellae. Interstitial lamellae is simply the space between your osteons. So I'm going to draw some circles around a few of these osteons. So we'll just do maybe down here in the bottom right corner. So this is an osteon, right? You see that circular formation with that central canal in the middle? Here is another osteon right there. You can see that central canal in the middle. And then here is another osteon right here. All right, so I've circled 3. Let me just go ahead and, well, I won't circle that 4th one just because I don't want to mess up the labeling over there at the top. But you'll notice with these osteons being circles, they don't fit flush with one another. There's spaces between them. Well, that space has to be filled with matrix. That matrix is what we call interstitial lamellae. Interstitial means between. That prefix inter means between. So interstitial lamellae is this area right in here. It's usually left over from maybe an earlier osteon, an older unit that's there. So this space between the osteons, and I'm going to even make a little note just so you kind of understand where we're trying to point. Between osteons, this area is known as the interstitial lamellae. Okay, and this is the anatomy of compact bone tissue.